from the heart of the world and the bridge of the Americas, at the Pacific entrance of the Panama Canal, the International Maritime University of Panama, and the MTCC Latin America. Welcome all of you to the IMO Cares International Virtual Workshop. Welcome to International Virtual Workshop, Maritime Decarbonization, R&D, Latin America, and Global Perspective.
Si vemos en este caso lo que son producciones en embarcaciones pequeñas, ¿qué es lo que pasa? Que las embarcaciones pequeñas realmente ellos tienen el ¿no?
Sean todos bienvenidos a este taller internacional virtual denominado la descarbonización marítima I+D+I Latinoamérica y sus perspectivas globales. IMO Care stands for Coordinated Action to Reduce Emissions from Shipping, and is a project funded by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Today, we carry out this international virtual workshop, Maritime Decarbonization, R&D, Latin America, and Global Perspectives, with the collaboration of the International Maritime Organization, the MTCC Latin America, and the International Maritime University of Panama. Now, we present the agenda of the workshop. En estos momentos vamos a proceder a presentarles la agenda de este tan importante taller. Now, we are going to present our first moderator, Engineer Erwin Vargas Wilson. He is a nautical engineer graduate from the Panama Nautical School, with more than 20 years of experience in maritime industries, working as chief engineer and technical superintendent in shipping companies. He has studies in postgraduate degree in higher education, postgraduate degree in shipbuilding and naval repair, diploma in tugboat engineer, has the train-to-trainer course on energy efficiency ship operation, organized by the IMO, and other technical courses. Currently is professor and hold a position of marine engineer school director of the Faculty of Nautical Science of UMIP, and also is the technical director of the MTCC Latin America. Our next moderator, Engineer Javier Diaz. He is graduate from the UMIP with degree of nautical engineer, specialized in navigation and maritime transportation. He holds unlimited license as shipmate with sea experience in car carrier and crude oil carriers. He completed additional studies such as postgraduate degree in higher education, master's degree in maritime affairs with specialization in maritime safety, and environmental administration of the World Maritime University. Currently is professor of master programs and the Faculty Nautical Science of UMIP. Also is the technical officer of the MTCC Latin America. Please welcome our moderators today.
Thank you there, Arisal, for your great presentation of us. We suggest to all the participants can switch off the microphone, please. Thank you for all the attendance. We start according with the agenda with the keynote address presentations. For us, it's a great honor for me to present Ms. Georgi Kurban. She is a head of project implementation in the IMO Department of Project and Partnership. She joined IMO in 2018 ahead of which she was leading the ecosystem approach-related work stream and project at UMIP. Now, Georgie Gurvan, the floor is yours, please, to speak to us about some words of the keynote addresses. Thank you, Georgie.
Buenos dias. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you very much. Director Hayata Yabis, Engineer Erwin Vargas Wilson, distinguished panelists, participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning again. In our workshop on maritime decarbonization, R&D, Latin America, and global perspectives. I'm grateful for this to be organized by MTCC Latin America as part of the IMO Cares Foundation project. In this regard, I wish to thank, first of all, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for funding this important project, both the design of the project and also the start of this project, which will be crucial for the practical implementation of the IMO GHG strategy, in particularly to address technology development and deployment needs of developing countries, including seeds and LDCs, with some of these seeds and LDCs also in Latin America and the Caribbean. This project also puts into center the 5 already existing regional MTCCs, which were established through the GMN EU Finance project. So MTCCs in Asia, Africa, Caribbean, Latin America, and Pacific. And these MTCCs will continue to play a strategic role in making significant progress in the respective regions, in coordinating right now through this IMO Cares, very specifically technology needs and technology-related pilot demonstration projects. IMO member states are actively engaged, as you know very well, in the process of revising the initial IMO strategy on GHG reductions from ships, and they are developing a basket of candidate and midterm measures, including related to elements of technology deployment. And because of this, this project can have also a very important role showcasing how technology deployment can be done in practice. The promotion and implementation of R&D and partnerships and technological deployment is fundamental for the achievement of a just and equitable transition to ensure that no one is left behind for the decarbonization of shipping. Therefore, I believe that today's event is a crucial first step on this journey together, and I thank one more MTCC Latin America for making today's meeting happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgie, for your excellent words about the keynote addresses. Now I give the floor to my colleague, Javier. Please, the floor is.
Thank you so very much to my colleague Erwin and the introductory words from Ms. Georgie. Now to continue with our program, we're really glad that presenting this morning, Ms. Hayat Al-Javis. She is the Director of Organizations and Conventions at the Transport General Authority of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Ms. Al-Javis has extensive experience in building international partnership through her work at the Gulf Cooperation Council as head of GCC US Strategic Partnership and as international relations expert at the Saudi Ministry of Economy and Planning. She is currently the Director of International Organizations and Agreements at the Transport General Authority. Please join me to welcome this morning Ms. Hayat Al-Javis. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, and colleagues. It is a pleasure to attend this workshop, the fourth and the final in the series, organized as part of IMO Cares Foundation project with the Global MTCC Network. I am here today representing Saudi Arabia. and I would like to express our sincere gratitude for your participation in this important event. This workshop will be vital for the IMO Cares Foundation project in further identifying opportunities and decarbonizing the shipping sector, and gives us an opportunity to benefit from the unique and varied experiences of attendees from a range of professional backgrounds. Engagement with MTCC Latin America and its stakeholders helps us to better understand the barriers and constraints to the uptake of new technologies and develop new models for collaboration in one of the most important links in the global of shipping supply chain. The work of MTCC Latin America under the capable directorship of Irvin Vargas has enhanced engagement with innovators, regulators, and practitioners at every level of the industry in a way that is truly a model for the global MTCC network. Maritime decarbonization is a long-term objective which depends on close cooperation across a range of complex topics, and there is no simple solution which will address the challenges we face. That's why the knowledge and understanding gained through this workshop is so important, and why I would like to thank you all for your attendance today. Saudi Arabia is privileged to have the opportunity to have supported the IMO and the Department of Partnerships and Projects in financing this phase of the IMO Cares project. These efforts are in line with the work of Vision 2030 and the Kingdom's prioritization of maritime matters through innovation and investment. We would therefore appreciate your continuous support for the IMO Cares initiative in the future as we work toward building a strategic framework to promote technologies transfer and maritime decarbonization and work towards ensuring that no one is left behind. I would like to conclude by thanking Dr. George Mythical, Chief Department of Partnership and Projects, Anton Rhodes, IMO Cares Project Manager, and Petra Harry for their efforts in organizing this event. Finally, I would like to wish you all a productive workshop. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Hayat Al-Javis, for your great words. And in this moment, I will switch to my colleague Erwin to continue with the program.
Thank you, Javier, for that excellent presentation of Ms. Hayat about the nutshell of the IMO Care projects. And continue with the agenda. We are now present Ms. Petra Hari. Petra is a completion professional currently working as a project officer for the IMO Care project at the International Maritime Organization. Since joining the organization in 2016, she has been actively engaged in several projects aiming at reducing of GHG and optimizing energy efficiency within the maritime sector. Petra has played a key role in the implementation of the GMM project, which is a global network of Maritime Technology Cooperation Centre. Please, Petra, the floor is yours to give us an introduction of the IMO Care project.
Thank you, Erwin, for the introduction. It's a great pleasure to be part of this event, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'll share my screen. Now, what I'd like to do with this presentation is to provide an overview of IMO Cares program and how it will function once it is established. And I would like to also highlight the potential benefits the program can bring to Latin America stakeholders. Before we go into the specifics of the program, I will provide some context in terms of shipping and GHG emissions and the IMO's decarbonization efforts. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the statistics. The fourth IMO GHG study estimated that the share of shipping in global emissions in 2018 was around 2.89%. And whilst this share of global emissions is relatively modest compared to other sectors, there is a potential for this figure to grow if appropriate action is not taken. So what has IMO been doing to tackle shipping emissions? From the regulatory perspective, in 2011, IMO adopted the first ever mandatory GHG reduction regimes for entire international transport sector and has been continually strengthening them over the past 12 years. In 2018, an initial IMO GHG strategy was adopted, and IMO is currently working towards adopting a strengthened revised strategy. Among the most recent developments is that from 1st January, it is mandatory for all ships to calculate their attained energy efficiency existing ship index and to collect data to report their annual operational carbon intensity indicator. All these measures provide important building blocks for future midterm GHG reduction measures, which are currently being considered. To help achieve the decarbonization targets and support the regulatory aspects in developing regions, IMO also implements a broad range of projects and initiatives, such as FinSmart Roundtable, Green Voyage 2050, Global MTCC Network, GHG Smart, and many other projects. I will not go into details of specific projects, but if you wish to find out more about these initiatives, please visit the IMO website. What I'd like to do now is to introduce in more detail the IMO Cares project. IMO Cares is currently in the preparatory phase, which is funded by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It is intended to be a long-term program to help coordinate stakeholders and support maritime decarbonization in developing countries. Our approach is to create a global cooperation framework that encourages stakeholders to work on the same challenges and find solutions that are mutually beneficial. The collaboration has different incentives for different stakeholders. So, for example, if you are a maritime administration, this collaboration might help to build local capacity. If you're an investor, this collaboration might help to reduce the level of risk on your investment. At the broadest level, CARES will establish a knowledge network that will be selected from organizations that are committed to the program goals. And from this knowledge network, CARES will establish ad hoc task forces. And these partners will bring knowledge and expertise or finance to support program activities. And in all of this, IMO Cares will be the neutral facilitator responsible for bringing together the partners, encouraging teamwork, managing partner contribution. Among activities that are being proposed under CARES are, for example, funding competitions that will be focused on the needs of the maritime sector in developing regions. These can be supplemented by matchmaking events to directly link interested companies with solution providers. CARES will also help coordinate an annual investor forum focused on upscaling of existing or completed pilot demonstrations. At the high level, we expect the program activities will lead to stakeholders being better connected and mobilized. And the main impact should be that funding and resources are directed to developing countries. Moving forward, in March, we will host the IMO Cares launch event, which will also include the announcement of our first funding competition. The main objective of the funding competition will be to identify local challenges, focusing on smaller class domestic vessels, and to select the best technology provider, the best solutions for demonstrations in the relevant regions. And the winning concepts will receive funding to develop full proposals, working with IMO and with MTCCs, and will then implement the technology in the regions. We hope that many of you can join us in these activities. If you're interested to participate in the IMO Cares program, please get in touch with us. The email is here on the slide, and we will look forward to engaging with many of you in the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you, there, Petra. Wow, was an excellent introduction of the IMO Care projects. And please feel free if somebody want to send email about the projects and how we can support all together in the same action. Thank you, there, Petra. And we continue with the agenda. I give the floor to my colleague Javier.
Okay, thank you so very much, dear Ervin, for this introduction. And now I think we're ready to start our session 1, which is named Overview of Research and Development Related to Maritime Decarbonization and Global Perspectives. And it's a really honor for us and for me to present our first speaker at this IMO Cares International Virtual Workshop, our dear Professor Aykut Olsher. He's a naval architect and marine engineer holding the Nippon Foundation Professoral Chair in Marine Technology and Innovation at the World Maritime University. He is currently the Director of Research of the WMU, as well as the Head of Maritime Energy Management, MEM specialization in the Master Program. For many years, he has conducted research independently, jointly, and collaborated with other researchers, academics, and students all over the world. Join me to welcome this morning our dear Professor Aykut Olsher. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Javier. So let me share my presentation. Javier, do you see my presentation?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Just let me do slideshow. Yes. Give me 10 seconds, please. Yes. Just a second. Okay, the full screen, right?
Full screen.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you very much, Javier. And thank you very much to IMO, in particular my colleagues, Ms. Petra, Anton, Giuseppe, and also, of course, the colleagues from MTCC, our alumni, Javier and Mr. Vargas. And thank you very much for the kind invitation. So considering our session is half an hour, I will do my best to squeeze into really the 10 minutes. But my role, considering the other speakers, to give the kind of a perspective from the Europe, in a way that what we do in the maritime decarbonization field when it comes to research, especially the research activities we do at Europe, and also what are the research trends and the gaps for the years to come. So in this respect, as we all know, seaborne transportation is the most fuel-efficient mode of transportation, but it's not coincidence that for the 3 items out of last 4, maritime team of IMO is focusing on the environment area. So the recent one is the MARPOL at 50, our commitment goes on. 2020, it is sustainable shipping for a sustainable planet, and the new technologies for greener shipping. Why am I highlighting all these things? 70s and 80s, it was a safety era. Now we are fully in environment era. Now, why am I highlighting this slide, which was already highlighted by the previous speaker, Ms. Petra? You know, the IMO GHG strategy is an overarching and umbrella framework for us to decarbonize international shipping. But the targets we have are ambitious targets. By 2030, it was 40% carbon intensity reduction, while 70% reduction is expected at 2050. These are ambitious targets. In order to achieve those targets, what we need is a paradigm shift, mindset change, or a really game changer, which is relying and based on, or should be based on, an innovative approach, innovative technology, and novel practices, which is very much linked to the cutting-edge research. So that's why ambitious targets lead us and all the way to this innovation era, and thereby to research, cutting-edge research. So I already highlighted the necessity of innovation and research. As of today, to decarbonize international shipping, we don't have any silver bullet technology or practice. So that's why we need a game changer. And game changer leads to some technologies which will be following, we call it a clean energy innovation pipeline, with first of all with a prototype and then demonstration, early adoption, and the maturity. But at the end of the day, whatever we do, whatever the technology we come up, it has to be a commercially viable technology for the sustainable update of this particular technology. And however, it is basically hindered by some barriers. The barriers resulting from individuals, barriers resulting from organization, and financial barriers, and so on and so forth. Especially financial barrier is very much linked to the mandate of the IMO CARES project. Again, this slide is definitely the rationale and the motivation behind, and the clear need for a research, in particular cutting edge research. Interestingly, and this is what basically I look into before the seminar, before the workshop. And if you look into research history, and if you go back to more than 20 years ago, of course, we were aware of this and the environmental aspect and the realities. The initial stage, we didn't do much when it comes to research. 2005 and 2008, an interest started in decarbonization and emission reduction. 2009 and 2012, research started to grow in this field. 2013 and 2016, and it has been the greater diversity from ship operations to alternative fuels to policy amendments. Now, since 2017, definitely it made a peak. From technologies to policy-related aspect, from human element and all the way to regulatory landscape. So the definitely research is at the moment very hot and the volume is big. So from now on, I have 10 or 15 slides, but definitely I will skip them very quickly so that it's a self-explanatory, but to give you an idea what we do in Europe. As you can see, this is an EU-funded project, and that particular project is focusing on hydrogen-powered vessels. As you all know, and when it comes to decarbonization and then carbon-free seaborne transportation, there are a few very popular alternative fuels, such as ammonia and hydrogen. So that's why this particular project is looking into hydrogen-powered vessels, and it was the first phase. In the second phase, they are looking into hydrogen fuel cell-powered vessels. And in this project, an ammonia fuel cells is the focus, is a ship FC project, again EU-funded. So second project I'm presenting here, again, this carbon-free fuel ammonia. The fast water project this time, okay, is not as environmental friendly as the ammonia and hydrogen, but methanol is also very popular, and also the kind of the sustainable transitional fuel. That's why this project is looking into methanol fueled engines. To give you an idea, one of the biggest shipping companies, the Maersk, already ordered vessels with methanol fueled engines. Another project, CTEC, at this time, they are looking at some symbiosis for engine technologies and the propulsion innovation. As you can see from the figure, they are proposing a very innovative technology and idea. And always remember, please, we need a game changer to decarbonize the vessels by the end of the century. Of course, even by the mid-century, we need a big reduction when it comes to carbon intensity. As of this 2050, it has to be there 70%. And another project, this time they're looking into the guidelines for an effective introduction of hydrogen in the maritime passenger transport sector, again as EU funding. And this time liquid hydrogen. They are looking into, in this project, liquid hydrogen and their applications, and application for RoRo demonstration. And in this project, they look into the quantifying and evaluating the effects of potential emission reduction solution for shipping in Europe and developing effective strategies. This time, the focus is not only on the technology side, but focus is on the developing the effective strategies for the shipping in Europe. Gators project, which is definitely core to my heart. The Gate Rudder project, from the naval architecture perspective, this is one of the most innovative solutions to be able to increase the propulsion efficiency. It's called GRS, Gate Rudder System. It's very popular, but in this particular project, is not only the academic work, but also we look into manufacture, install, and the retrofit of this Gate Rudder system. In this project, we look into integrated hybrid energy system for long-haul cruise ships. So in order to able to fully cover the power demand of a cruise ship with SOFC battery technology to fully power the ship on renewables. So the aim of this project is really to solely focusing on relying on the SOFC battery technology to fully power based on renewable energy full cruise ships. And this is air lubrication, again, another game changer. And it's very popular to lubricate the hull, underwater hull, to reduce the least or to provide the least frictional resistance for the ship. Is innovative, is not applicable to all ships, but if it is applicable, it creates definitely a big potential and reduces the fuel consumption significantly, air lubrication technology. And this is looking into a master plan for European green ports. And this is the first slide I'm touching upon the ports, because ports are a very important element for decarbonization. And this is also looking into some logistics and supply chain related aspects. And this is looking into combination of many technologies on board ships, not solely focusing on one technology like alternative fuel, but combination of many technologies from carbon capture and all the way to a membrane reactor. And the Czech project WME is involved. We are looking into 2 ships, wind assistance ship propulsion on bulk carriers, and also the hydrogen powered cruise ship. And these are the 2 ship types we are focusing on this project. And ammonia, and we look into in this project ammonia engine with possibly a low GWP, global warming potential, GHG warming potential. And also from the region Scandinavia, we have a program framework called Nordic Energy Research, and it has 3 projects, again focusing on mainly the ammonia and hydrogen. And every partner looking into different aspects to give you an idea, and WMU will look into life cycle analysis. Now, if you look into the research global perspective, the area stakeholders involved and let's say the statistic with regards to the research projects we have in the global perspective, as you can see, and hydrogen related projects a lot, especially between 2016 and 2022, it's increasing. The second big one is the ammonia, and third one is the battery power. As you can easily see that research is definitely diverted on to do research on alternative propulsion technologies in the form of fuels and the technologies. If you look into the projects by the value chain, as you can see, the majority is related, associated with the equipment and the technology providers. The second is the energy production sector. And the third is the ship owner or the ship operators. And the fourth one is the ports. Fifth is the classification societies. These are the statistics with regards to projects by the value chain. Projects by the region, Europe is doing a lot, and followed by the Asia and the North America and the South America and Oceania. You can see ship technology research is the most, especially in the 3 regions, Europe, Asia, and North America. And again, the second aspect, second research discipline is on the alternative fuels. And the third one is on the bunkering and the infrastructure. Okay, this is my last slide, and I hope I was able to make it within 10 minutes time. What is the future? To the best of our humble experience and the knowledge, and definitely there are some needs when it comes to research. If we want to decarbonize international shipping in the near and the long-term future, we definitely need a holistic and transdisciplinary centric research, and including the global cooperation and amongst all stakeholders and the capacity building. So definitely the technologies should not be the focus. It has to be the holistic approach, which needs to include all the elements, all the pillars, such as human element, such as regulatory landscape, such as alternative fuels, and such as the economic aspects. So in line with this one, 3 areas definitely the way forward when it comes to future research: alternative fuel, in particular carbon-free fuels, electrification, and employing the renewable energy to be able to solely propel the ships on renewable energy. And regardless of how good the solutions are, and everything comes to financing of decarbonization. So we have to be able to find some optimal mechanism to come up with the optimal financing mechanism to decarbonize the vessel. And life cycle element is very important. Probably one of the best example is the fuel cell. Fuel cell are very environmentally friendly technologies, but when it comes to the fuel used by the fuel cell, for example, if it is hydrogen, so fuel cell might not be considered as environmentally friendly because of the production of the hydrogen. So that's why life cycle analysis is a very important research discipline we have to do. The more importantly, whatever we come up in terms of technology and the measures, suppose that we have also optimal financing or sustainable financing. At the end of the day, before the implementation of all these things, we have to look into the assessment, impact assessment of all those measures, in particular LDCs and DCs, which is already covered by the IMO discussions. And economic measures research is definitely, especially in ETS and a market-based measure. At the moment, EU is pushing ETS a lot, and this push is also felt on the IMO side as well. And ETS is will be already in force very soon. So this will be also impacting how we trade and how we do the international shipping. Life cycle perspective within the energy and the maritime supply chain is definitely another aspect and future research. And last but not the least, whatever we do, we have to always look into the trade-off, because when we look into decarbonization, our perspective is very much blind. So in order to remove this blindness, definitely we need to look into the trade-off between smarter ship, safer ship, and greener ships. While we are all doing this, we have to empower women in the maritime industry, and we have to be able to establish a resilience for the future disruptions, such as pandemic, or the conflict we are having at the moment between Ukraine and Russia. But thank you very much, and sorry if I talk a lot.
Not a lot, dear Professor Olcher. Very good presentation. Thank you so very much, especially when you mentioned the necessity of innovation and research and all the progress on this area. Thank you so very much, Professor Olcher. And in this moment, I switch to my colleague Erwin to continue with the program.
Thank you, colleague Javier. Now, continue with the session. I have a great honor to present our next speaker at the IMO International Virtual Workshops, Mr. Gavin Allwright. He is a Secretary General of the International Windship Association. This grouping of maritime wind propulsion company and projects supported by the ship owner, shipbuilders, class, research, institute, academia, NGO, and seafarers is working to promote and facilitate the uptake of wind propulsion solution in commercial shipping. Alongside his work as association secretary, he also led the policy work stream, requiring regular attendance at the International Maritime Organization. He has a consultative status and he sits on the Stakeholder Advisory Committee for the MTCC network. Now, I am glad to present Mr. Gavin Allwright. Please, the floor is yours, Mr. Gavin.
Thank you very much, Erwin.
Can you switch? Yeah, you are mute. Now you can, please.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Loud and clear.
Right. And I'll just go onto the slideshow. Okay. And thank you for inviting me to talk today. And it's always a pleasure to come after Professor Olcher, who really lays out, you know, the overview of what we need to do for decarbonization. I just wanted to reiterate something that Professor said, is that we're really looking at a paradigm shift in shipping to be able to achieve the goals that we're talking about. And indeed, wind propulsion is something that not everybody is fully aware of or have much knowledge of. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of a deeper dive into wind propulsion and some of the potential there. So the IWSA is actually spread globally. We have over 150 active members, but as you'll see, there's quite a concentration in Europe at the moment. just as the professor showed, a lot of the R&D has been funded there, but our members are very keen to really test the systems, the approaches, and the different technologies in developing countries, and we're developing our own hubs as well. So we're very excited to engage with the IMO CARES and the pilot projects going forward. But just very quickly, the direct application of wind power, we're talking about delivering wind to ships directly, as opposed to putting the wind through a turbine and actually losing around 90% of the renewable energy that's delivered to that turbine through the creation of fuels, etc. So with wind propulsion, an element or a percentage of your power will be delivered directly to the ship at the point of use. So it's zero emissions, it's zero cost. The energy itself doesn't require mining, refining, transportation, bunkering, or storage on the vessel. So you can use it, it's abundant worldwide, and it's available today. So the technology groupings are coming through as well. We already have 13 technology providers that have market-ready systems, but a whole plethora of small OEMs, SMEs that are developing technologies in the R&D pipeline and looking to test those across the board on all different types of ships in all different applications. And as you'll notice, a retrofit system, if you're not changing the way that you use the vessel, so it's a motor vessel with wind put onto it, then you're looking between 5 to 20%, potentially up to 30%. But if you then bring in some optimization aspects, for example, weather routing and other optimization approaches, and you have an optimized new build vessel, then we're getting some really exciting numbers, 50% plus on specific windy routes. Now, there are actually 7 technology groupings, which I don't really have time to go through, but I'll flick through the slides very quickly. The first one is the rotor sail, which is breaking into the market at the moment. There's about 10 installations. These sails, they rotate with an electric motor. When the wind hits them at an angle, they generate thrust pretty much through the Magnus effect, which is similar to a curveball whipping effect when you use a curveball in baseball. Suction wing, this was developed in the 1980s by Jacques Cousteau and his team. And this is a stubby wing sail that has a ventilator which sucks in the wind around the system and generates thrust. Rigid sail and soft sails, I think, are quite common. A lot of people have seen these in the racing fraternity, etc. There's a lot of different systems that are available, some very large, some more applicable for smaller domestic vessels. Kites have, about 10 years ago, we had the first iteration of kites. These are now coming back into the market and have potential to be retrofitted to container ships, for example, where the deck space is quite limited. And then we also have turbines and the potential for the changing of hull or the designing of the hulls of vessels, which create lift through the headwinds that the shipping goes in. I'm more than delighted to talk more about those, but we only have a few minutes to set the scene today, so I'll leave it at that. Now, I talked about optimization, and indeed a lot of the R&D at the moment is going into the optimization of systems, where they operate, how they operate in different weather conditions in different parts of the world. And we have some increasingly sophisticated weather routing technology, but also we have wind sensors and even LiDAR, which is Doppler radar, being used on vessels or being tested on vessels, where you actually get real-time data coming in to the vessel so you can optimize the use of the system. And these are quite exciting developments that we'll see more development coming through over the next few years. Where are we today? Well, we have 23 large ocean-going vessels with wind assist systems installed. And actually, that should be January 2023, not 22. But also 4 wind-ready vessels. And these cover most of the segments. Container ships are not yet covered, although we have some designs coming through. And there's also about 20 smaller cargo vessels, fisheries, small cruise vessels that use traditional routes. These are very applicable for inter-island trading, SIDS, LDC regions, where actually there's a lot of traditional knowledge of sailing. And so, you know, the ability for local sailors to actually implement these systems. Market development going forward. This last year, we had 8 installations of vessels. This coming 12 months, we're looking at 24 installations. So this is starting to accelerate, especially in the larger vessel segments, bulkers, tankers, etc. But general cargo vessels as well are significantly growing too. So we are seeing a diffusion of knowledge that is happening because of this, and also an increasing understanding in shipyards, etc. So that knowledge base is increasingly there, but it's not really tested in least developed countries as much as we would like to see. There are some signs of that scaling and maturity in the market, where we have some standardization going on, hybrid systems. Professor Olcher mentioned about the Czech project, which is looking at, for example, wind along with gate rudders. We want to see more testing of the hybrid systems, remembering that wind is compatible with any other energy source that you choose or any other alternative fuel. We are working, IWSA itself are working on the technology validation, standardized approaches. So there's a lot of verification. All of the class societies, all of the major class societies now have guidelines. So there's a lot more stability in the understanding safety issues, stability issues, etc. That gives the R&D projects and the testing projects that are in different regions a lot to fall back on, a lot of backing in the knowledge segment, etc. Another area that's growing, starting to grow even more, is this primary wind area. There are smaller vessels and larger vessels. Actually, the Neo line on the left side will be coming over to North America, possibly the Caribbean from France, and that will be operating with some quite large players involved, probably in place in 2025. We're seeing other ships in the 80 to 100 meter segment as well, developing around primary wind. And as you'll see from the numbers here, 80%, 70%, 90%, 100% plus, when you start to change that paradigm, you actually can harness additional wind when the vessel doesn't need any more energy. You can have hydro turbines, you could be feathering your propellers to generate electricity, which on board can be used to generate alternative fuels too. And just a couple of final slides. Around wind propulsion, there are other trends and approaches. Of course, retractable, stowable, and mobile systems. These are increasingly being tested, and we're looking to really test those on all different types of ships. Modular and containerized systems, which is quite an exciting area, where when you're on a windy route, you can lift on the system or plug in the system, plugging it out when you're not on such a windy route. And I've already mentioned around wind-ready developments and the energy harvesting, which is going on a number of mega yachts, for example, and other test beds. So some really exciting potential R&D areas for further development. And this is just a slide to show you that a lot of organizations, large organizations, are investing and putting their technology knowledge and know-how into this sector. But we're still at that early stage. But we need to scale quickly. We need to also bring these into all of these segments of the shipping region. And I'll be delighted in the future to be working with some of the audience here. I very much hope so. Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin. Wow, was an excellent presentation. And we also informed to all the participants, after we finish this meeting, we are preparing our webpage. We send all the presentation for our speaker in our webpage. Don't worry about that. And this is a good to question about how we can do it in the future. But your presentation there, Gavin, was excellent, and the people want to know more how the process of decarbonization are implemented, and also how to use wind propulsion in new construction and new shipbuilding, and how we involve the academias and all stakeholders to participate together in that process. Thank you. Now I pass to my colleague, Javier.
Yes, thank you, Erwin. And I think our audience enjoying from excellent presentation. And now to close our first session, I will be really happy to introduce our third speaker, Captain Mijail Maliaros from Euronav Ship Management, Hellas. Captain Maliaros joined Euronav Ship Management Hellas in 2005. He has been appointed as General Manager since June 2022. He started as Chief Mate and later as Marine Master, after which he became HSQ Superintendent in 2012. Also holding the roles of Deputy Designated Person Ashore and Deputy Company Security Officer. In 2015, he was appointed as General Manager to the Euronav Singapore office at its inception and held this position until 2018. From 2017 onwards, he was assigned with the role of Fleet Personnel Manager. Prior to Euronav, Captain Maliaros held the position of Marine Operator and gained seagoing experience in various shipping companies. He is also associate member of the Hellenic Marine Environment Protection Association, UMIP, a member of Intertanko Nautical Subcommittee, and a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Shipbroker. Please join me to welcome this morning our third speaker, Captain Mijail Maliaros. The floor is yours.
Dear Javier, thank you so much. Dear Erwin, thank you so much, first of all, for the invitation. And I would like to salute this initiative from MTCC Latin America. It's a great opportunity for me to be here and try to give a perspective from ship management company, how we see decarbonization, R&D in this field, challenges and the opportunities. I know what, as I can see, we are a bit behind schedule, so I will try to catch up with timing. I have not a presentation to share, so I'm going to give you these perspectives and share our points of view. I followed very precisely the presentation of the two previous speakers, and really excellent, very good job. And I would like to give the perspective from, as I said, from the ship owners and the ship management company regarding decarbonization in brief. And indeed, for shipping industry, we are very conscious on what we have to do, what we have to succeed, and what is, of course, a big challenge for us is how we are going to reach this point, because as of now, there is already a technology available that gives us the opportunity to succeed and achieve the short-term goals. However, the ultimate goal for zero carbons are not yet available. So from our point of view, indeed, I will stick on the statement that Professor did, that we have to engage all the value chain stakeholders. For us, it's really obvious that we cannot succeed to this journey, because it is indeed a journey to decarbonization without the engagement of all the stakeholders. We need to be there We need to be close one to the other. We need to support one each other. And definitely what we have to do is to invest more and more on R&D. We have to secure funding. We have to make sure that we try and see how this new technology that it is available, or the ideas that are on the table, how we can materialize them to the benefit of decarbonizing, and be bold enough and brave enough to take the chances. And shipping industry is one of the industries that keep insisting that the funding to decarbonization and to R&D has to be continuous and has to be in a constant order through a framework that makes sure that this is available continuously. I would like to comment also that for the shipping industry, again, the future fuels, it's definitely a big challenge and something that we know for sure that will not depend on a single fuel. And that this is also another field of another area that we have to be brave. We have to give the chance and support the way that we will develop and make sure that the supply chain will not, at the end, will be the one that it is required in order to support the trade by sea. And we know that this is perhaps the biggest challenge ever, because we are talking about infrastructure, we're talking about fuels from carbon to blue to green, and then for technology that is not yet available. So the challenges are a lot. The challenges are a lot, and we have to make it happen. We have to make it happen one way or the other. And the shipping industry is so committed to make it happen that has already supported a lot of R&D ideas. Euronav has a very clear decarbonization strategy and path to zero emissions. And it's something that as a company that we want to be ahead of the developments, we want to be the first with innovative ideas and trying to explore all the possibilities and all the opportunities that we have in order to succeed in this journey. We are participating in many forums, in many R&D forums to see how we can get advantage of it and how we can support them as well, and how we can succeed in this journey to decarbonization. There is already quite, I would say, quite a lot of developments in this aspect, and I'm pretty sure that we are going to see many, many more evolving and coming in favor of this journey. However, I would say, and I will keep insisting on that, that we should engage the entire value chain stakeholders. And although we know that in some areas we see that there is considerable development and activity, we should not limit this to a single region and area. In order to be able to support shipping trade, we have to make sure that this technology, this knowledge will be available globally. We will share this, and I think this is another key for success towards to decarbonization and towards to zero emission. We have to be transparent, open, help each other, see how we can support one each other towards to decarbonization. It's not a matter of a single stakeholder if they succeed to develop a technology or not. We are talking about the future of the entire globe. So it's something that we should understand and realize that this is a matter of each and every one, and we should be able to make it clear and share it amongst us. Another thing that I would like to address, and I will close also with this, is that in this journey to decarbonization, we should make sure that we should not leave behind the labor that is already engaged and running the business, and especially those that they are on board the vessels. We have identified already that the technology and the developments running so rapidly and so fast that we need to focus on how we are going to bridge this gap and make sure that the people and the labor that is already engaged in this will be able to reskill and update their knowledge on all the available developments around R&D and the available technology that is already existing. And this is by itself a huge task. And perhaps for me, if I may say so, is the most challenging part, because we see that there are a lot of developments, a lot of different technologies, and it's not that one solution fits everywhere. So we see that the vessels, they will become even more specialized, and we will have to train the people to run these vessels safely and to the benefit of the entire value chain. So I think that the challenges are there, and it's something that we have all identified. However, the good news is that we see more and more stakeholders be engaged and aligned to this. And I'm pretty sure that although challenging and difficult this road to do decarbonization, we will make sure that it will be a huge and big achievement, and that we will make it happen. Javier, back to you.
Oh, Captain, thank you so very much. We're really happy to have you this morning with us and looking at the perspective from ship owner, from a shipping company, the challenges and the opportunities ahead in terms of research, development, investment, training of the personnel. It's a really good, really great presentation. Thank you so very much. With your presentation, we conclude our first session, the session 1. And we are really happy also to welcome over 200 participants from all over the world, sending the messages. We send also our greetings to all of you. Please do not stop leaving your messages, your names, your contacts through our chats, so we can keep in contact, direct contact with you after this great event. Erwin, I think the floor is yours now.
Yes, Mark. Yes, my friend. Yes, my friend. Yeah, we are continuing with the programs. From the MTCC Latin America and the International Maritime University of Panama in the presentation of the first sessions. It has been a great value to be able to receive exclusive and update information and the lessons that is being presented by the academics, experts, ship owners, perspective, and the new technology as a wind propulsion, as I mentioned, Alex, and also how all the ship owner, how thinking about the process of decarbonization, the perspective, and also the academic information for the project to involve more R&D in that process of decarbonization. Now, we are opening to start the second part of this workshop. Overview of the decarbonization technology challenge from Latin American region. In this session, I will present our next speaker. Please, our next speaker, Mr. Duno Kailash, is a senior manager, technical service at the Mauritius Port Authority. He formed a part of the Mechanical Engineering Standard Committee of the Mauritius Standard Bureau and lectures at the University of Mauritius. At the MPA, he is a leader of the green transition under the Green Port Initiative. He is spread ahead the port energy efficiency and renewable strategic planning, and he is currently implementing the recommendation of the plan. Mr. Duno holds a degree Bachelor of Technology Mechanical Engineering, graduated diploma in Maritime Management, and in Port Management and Shipping Administration. For us, it's a great honor to present our net colleague and friend, Mr. Duno Kailash. Please, Derduno, the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you, Arvin, for this introduction. Let me just share the screen.
Good. We can see your presentation, Derduno.
Yeah. Thank you, Latin America. Thank you, IMO Cares, for giving this opportunity to share my experience with the transition to green port. It's an experience from Port Louis Harbor, Mauritius. I'll just, for those who don't know where is Port Louis, Mauritius, I just flip the slides, and for the agenda today, I'll give you just a brief overview of Port Louis, the Green Port Initiative, the key drivers toward the green transition to green port concept, and what we have learned on this and the way forward. And also I'll take a case study if time allows. I know I have 10 minutes. So as I said, where are we? Are we on the Indian Ocean? You can see Panama, where is Panama and where is Indian Ocean? So very far. It's a bit very quickly what we do in terms of trade, bulk imports, petroleum products, LPGs. We have a cruise facility which is being constructed. We have dry docking facilities. So it contributes, the port contributes to 2% of the GDP, and it's the only maritime gateway for external trade. Some key figures at a glance. This is one of our facility which is being built. I'm showing it because we have a project over there on coal ironing. So I'll probably take this as a case, show you a bit of what we are doing for a feasibility study for shore power implementation. So the global context, you all know 80% of the trade, 80% global maritime trade is by maritime transport, contributes about 3% of global emissions. It has increased over 32% in the past 20 years, and this is likely to increase more in the years to come by 2050. Until now, the port GHG emissions is not yet accounted. So for the emissions, it's a less than shipping and then transport. But due to greater demand for port services, the shipping emissions are likely to increase. This has been shown by the previous speakers and how and the trend. Climate change mitigation regulation, whether it's national, regional, or international, apply to ports. So if you want to achieve the Paris Agreement to limit global temperature rise to 1.5 to 2 degrees, the role of ports in the reduction of the GHG emissions is essential. To achieve the Paris Agreement, all sectors, including maritime transport, need to decarbonize. Now, why we have to do this? It fortifies the port image and contributes to many attributes with a green reputation, strengthens corporate and social responsibility. It also enhances trust in ports. Now, why energy, why GHG emissions in the context of green ports? They are recognized as the main pillars for planning and achieving the notable concept of green ports. And also, if ports are green and sustainable pathways, they contribute to the essential UN SDG goals, namely the goals 7, 12, 13, and 17. Now for Port Louis Harbor, what were the key drivers? So when we started the project sometime in 2012, at the time the consideration was to reduce reliance on expensive fuel oil and to overcome economic crisis. To that goal we should add the reduction of CO2 from emissions from power generation. And also GHG emissions, which are produced by human activities or driving. It is then reasonable doubt that this is a... So what we did was in terms of national strategies, was to decarbonize the power sector using renewable energy to fight climate change. As you are aware, global power is still reliant on fossil fuels, as it is the largest emitter of carbon dioxide. At the national level, the government has furthered its energy transition ambition by increasing the target of renewables in the electricity mix to 60% by 2030. The current share of renewable is around 24%. This was the last data from year 2022. And now we have one utility provider, and they have also a very key role to play right now. They are improving the grid absorption capacity to accept renewable energy. As we all know, it is very intermittent. So they are looking at automatic generation control software, looking at the advanced distribution systems, looking at metering infrastructure, looking at storage system in terms of batteries, and also the modernizing the substations. We already have in Mauritius the institutional or regulatory framework. There are also policy documents which are applicable to the energy sector. We have an Energy Efficiency Act, Regulatory Act. We have the Renewable Energy Agency in Mauritius. We have the Electricity Act. We have also a long-term energy strategy plan, a roadmap for electric sector, electric vehicle integration, and we also have a national determined contribution. So how we proceeded towards a green port at Port Louis Harbour. I will tell you a bit of a stepwise approach to this. We thought that energy efficiency as a value means to address these challenges, which I just mentioned. It improves the country's security of supply by reducing energy consumption and decreasing energy imports. In doing so, we thought that it will cut the GHG emissions in a very cost-effective manner. On this count, we have taken some initiative. We'll probably discuss it later during the panel discussion, what the small things that we have done. The next step was not only to look at energy efficiency, but to see in parallel what could be done in terms of potential renewable energy potential in the port. So far, the coal has been an important source of energy in the energy mix. It contributes about 1,300 gigawatt hour annually, represent 40% of electricity in the energy mix. So the objective is now to phase out coal by local viable resources. And this one, the ambition of the government right now to reduce it, to eliminate the phasing out of coal by 2030. You know, Mauritius is a small island developing state, and with limited resources, Mauritius depends on the importation of fossil fuel, namely coal and oil, to meet its energy demand. So in terms of GHG emissions, we look at the scope. The port, Mauritius Ports Authority, is a landlord port, so it has, it's a landlord port, has controlled the regulatory functions, but it also has some operation with its mandate as well. From an energy consumption perspective,
we lost audio from the speaker.
Yeah, they're not waiting. Yeah, we have to reactivate it.
Okay, from an energy consumption perspective, the port was divided into 4 areas, area 1 to 4. One area is under the complete control of MPA. Second is a terminal operator, mainly the Mauritius Container Terminal, where we have the ship-to-shore cranes, etc. Area 3 is related to the zone occupied by ships. They are not strictly under control of MPA, but they contribute significantly about the energy and thus emit GHG emissions. I'll come to this later on what we have done for this part of our project. Area 4, which is a responsibility of private operators, and which we don't have much control, but we have our operators who are working the port. They're very conscious of the issue of climate change. So as I said, area 1, we prioritize it, and on area 1, which is under the control of MPA, the MPA buildings, We look at our air conditioning system, lighting systems, our street lighting, the oil jetty where we have it's a strategic facility, our fleet of truck transport vehicles. And under area 2, which is under the Decarbonization Cooperation, which is our licensed terminal operator. We look at all the facilities, the cranes, the RTGs, tractor trailers, forklift stock, trucks, reefer stations, and also our terminal lighting system. For areas 3, which is not under control of MPA, but also to consume a lot of energy, we did that feasibility study. I'll come to that later during this presentation. For a green port, for such a project to be effective, to be possible, we felt that, okay, we need to have a proper emission reduction strategy, for which we need the commitment of management of MPA. And this we got it from the MPA from the top level, and were able to come up with a project. We look at all the pollutants which need to be reduced. Since the port is located near the city, with populated areas, the focus of the emission reduction strategy at Port Harbour was on all port-related pollutants, not only CO2, but all NOx, SOx, etc. We also look at an assessment of the energy and pollution reduction potential, and we learned what other ports are doing in other parts of the world, and also identify the emission control measures. Having said this, the last step was to develop in terms of reference, what we need in terms of how we're going to arrive at the green port. So we developed in terms of reference. We said we're going to conduct an energy audit of each site and facility. Then came with the strategic energy management plan, which included an action plan, comprising short-term, medium-term, and long-term cost and benefit associated with each measures, and how they're going to reduce the pollutants. And in parallel, we did an assessment of the renewable energy potential. So as I said, this initiative started in 2013 with a project we called Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Strategic Planning. We appointed a consulting firm. We got 3 deliverables: an energy audit report, an energy efficiency management plan, and also the renewable energy potential assessment report, which allowed us, MPA, to move toward the green port concept. Since then, we have pursued the green port, all the initiatives. The most deployed technologies, what we saw was solar PV, wind, electric hybrid vehicle, electric port equipment, onshore power supply in terms of lighting, LED lighting. The greening of port operations, we started to implement the project. We already have a facility where we have solar PV installation. We also look at opportunities at the Mauritius Container Terminal, how we can come up with energy management in terms of terminal lighting, operational and control of RTGs. And for the cruise terminal, which is going to be ready by end of this month, we already have carried out a feasibility study for this, for the project. We felt that this initiative will not only improve the GHG emission on one hand, but you also improve the image of Mauritius as a green destination. So this is a case study for the, as I said, for the onshore power supply. The project was about a study for a shore power supply system for cruise vessel ships at the Port Harbour. We have several partners for the Indian Ocean Commission, and we got a funding for the World Bank, from the World Bank for the Indian Ocean Commission, and we had also active participation of the local utility providers, the Central Electricity Board. The objective was a reduction of emission by ships while above. What we did was to examine what we can get from the grid and how clean is the power supply from the grid and what compared to what is being produced on board the ship generators. The investment around 11.5 million USD. What we can get in terms of annual reduction of CO2 emission was about estimated at 3,000 tons of CO2. Impact of the project, well, it could be a determining factor for cruise line decision for home porting in Mauritius or elsewhere. This is one of the findings when we did the analysis. Right now, ship generator produce approximately about 675 kg of CO2 per megawatt hour. As I said, we are transitioning to make our grid clean. So right now, what we produce from the grid is for each megawatt hour is about 1,000 kg. So as we are moving towards improving the increasing renewable energy in the energy mix, so by 2025, it's going to be 667 kg of CO2 per megawatt, and by 2030, it's going to be 320. So we'll see, start making sense. This project of OPS will start making sense by that time. We can also provide all the power for solar panels. There is an additional investment of 3.5 million USD. In that case, it's the power which is going to be delivered will be totally green. That was a very quick analysis of what will be in terms of energy demand, the required solar capacity, number of panels, what it would imply. And also, right now we have a project which is under development, is about installation of solar PV. So if that was to supply the shore power, it will be 21% of the demand. And will eliminate, this project on its own will eliminate about 866 tons of CO2. The challenges, well, the policy focus right now is on economic indicators, as you all know, rather than environmental indicators. We had some.
Merly, porfa, WhatsApp.
We have some financial impediments have also resulted because of the COVID in the postponement of our project. So we are picking up again. We also think that the challenges will be in terms of training and awareness prior to embarking on such a project. We'll be still competing with fossil fuel because easier it's to produce power from fossil fuels rather than embarking on projects like solar PV. In terms of opportunities, yes, it's a new economic growth pole and definitely is going to improve our health and the environment by increasing air pollution. I'll take up the questions probably during our panel discussion. That's all from my side.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you there, Duno, for your excellent presentation. That was a great because after in the session 3, as we had mentioned before, we have the part of the questions and answer for all the audience. And we are so happy that we shared to everybody here that before the end of the event, we shared in the chat of the meeting, in the Zoom meeting, we sent a link to the evaluation form of this great event to everybody. And also, we are so happy to announce when you fill out the evaluation form, you can receive in your email a certificate of participant of all of you when you fill out the evaluation form. Thank you there, Duno Kailash, and also in the session 3, we can answer all the questions from the audience. And you mentioned something like we are doing together, and also how we can implement that kind of project in all Latin American region and also globally. It's not only from Latin America, it's also globally. Thank you. Now I pass to my colleague, Javier, please, the floor.
Oh, yes. Thank you so very much, Erwin. And was a really great presentation from our dear friend, Duno Kailash from Mauritius. I think the participants have been benefited. And as my colleague Erwin said, we will have a panel discussion in the session 3. So the questions and the whatever you like to ask to our speakers can be discussed in panel 3. Now to continue with our program, we also like to welcome Martin Rosiux from Argentina, also one of our dear friend and partner of the MTCC Latin America. Martin Rosiux is a marine engineer and a mechanical engineer. He got a diploma in energy management. General Manager of Rosyuk SRL, a company located in South America for decarbonization of the maritime sector, fuel consumption, and GHG reduction, planning, digitalization, and marine pollution compliance. He has international experience and as a lecturer at congresses and conferences in several countries, over 20 years of experience in several industries related to energy pollution, energy production, oil and gas, and energy recovery systems. Join me to welcome this morning, Mr. Martin Rosyuk. The floor is yours.
Hello, Javier. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for this space. Let me check. I will share my screen so we can start with the presentation. Okay. Okay, in minutes. So. Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry, I have to. Okay. Now, yes, we are there. Let me check if you can see it. Okay. Please tell me if you can see the presentation.
Yes, we can see it, Martin. Perfect.
Okay. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, everyone. First, the MTCC, IMO Cares, and all the participants that are really interested in this aspect because it really touches us all. If we don't take care of our environment, we all have a problem. That's why the importance of this kind of webinars that we are the opportunity and the possibility to speak. We are going to talk about some regulatory aspects in the transition to shipping decarbonization. And we will make a small view of how we were related to the regulations and the history of this and why we are here. In fact, we are going to see where we was, where we are, and where we will probably be in a couple of months and years. We will start talking about the MEPC. MEPC, for everyone that does not know this, is the Maritime Environmental Protection Committees. And we start with the 72. The 72, it was adopted the initial strategy with short, mid, and long-term measures related to shipping the decarbonization. Then we jump to the MEPC 76, where we have the revised MARPOL Annex 6 and some regulations that applied in this revised annex, where we have several technical, operational, and from the management point of view, decarbonization process. We have the EXI that most of us probably will know. It's a technical measure, the CII, and operational, and how we are going to go from point A to point B via planning. That is the SIM or the Ship Energy Management Plan. In this case, in these resolutions, we have the approval of the SIM Part 3, where we have several goals and several CII or carbon intensity indicator goals for every ship according to the ship size and type. Then, not related exactly with maritime sector, but we have the COP26, where the outcome of this was an urgent reduction of the greenhouse gases. Then, at the MEPC 78, we have the revised and additional regulations, like, for example, the number 355, with correction factors and voyage adjustments. That is called the G5, where we have some additional aspects to calculate the CII attained of every ship. Then, a couple of months ago, it was the MEPC 79 by December, where we have the adoption of some amendments to MARPOL Annex 6, revision and continue and start the revision and enforcement, the revision of the initial IMO strategy, development of midterm measures, like also a checkpoint by expected by 2040, the adoption of revised procedures to see how each measure will impact on some states. Basically, the small island groups and the least developed countries, because according to the food supplies, transport distances, and so this must be evaluated to don't have a negative impact. It's not the same Germany, Japan, like some countries South America, because the distances are really extensive. Then development of guidelines, or start the development of guidelines related to the life cycle assessment of the fuels, because we have here a problem. For example, we have hydrogen in our ship, but how this hydrogen was produced? Well, this kind of guidelines will help us to comply and to check out the complete LCA of each marine fuel. It's expected to be approved quite soon. Proposals related to onboard capture, CO2 capture, because we can, if probably the ship cannot comply with everything, but with technical means, probably with some devices the CO2 can be captured, and how it's going to manage, how it's going to count it, how it's going to include it in the CII, this must be, and it's under study. Then at least a kind of revision of the IMO DCS, the data collection system, with inclusion of some other data that will be helpful for calculation some indicators, and have more information from the ship, take more statistics, and comply or help comply with the regulations. Probably what's to come in the coming months. We will have the intersessional working group for greenhouse gases in next month, while we'll continue the revised strategy of the initial strategy in order to be able, if it's possible, to be adopted by the MEPC 80. When we talk about short, mid, and long-term measures, we have to check where we are right now. Now we have two types of measures, technical and operational. We cannot talk about one measure without touching the other. Only about talking about technical issues, we leave operational aspects of the navigation really out of the scope. And we cannot always talk about only operational if we don't touch technical. So we have the new builds, the ships in operation, with technical measures like the EEDI, this how we design the ship from the energy efficiency point of view, and how it was designed, the ship, with the EEXI. When we talk about these two values, we are going to talk about indexes, because it's one-time application, except that we make modifications of the ship. And then we have operational, basically we manage indicators. That's why we have to separate index from indicators in this case. And we have operational aspects like the CII, the carbon intensity indicator, carbon intensity rating, and the planning of how we are going to decarbonize our ship. Putting these two columns, technical and operational aspects, in one single chart, we can have this. Hope that it's not quite complicated. But we come with a blue line with our ship, and then we have application of EEXI. EEXI, we have a value required by the regulation and the value attained by the ship. If the value attained by the ship is higher than the required by the regulation, we have to apply several technical means to reduce the power of the main engine to reduce these emissions from the ship. Most common issue is to apply an overridable engine power limitation, or EPL, engine derating, or shaft power limitation. And it was expected to have a deep cut in the emissions from the maritime sector. This is one-time application. And then we have continuous improvement with the CII and CII ratings, where every ship must be at least in a C category. A is the most efficient and E is the less efficient. And if you check out our SIMP, we have goals year by year from 2023 to 2026 with 2% per year of CO2 reduction improvement. But what will happen? Because, okay, we have this up to 2026. Well, the outcomes of the COP 26 and 27 say, hey, we have to reduce more, we have to deep cut our emissions, and it is expected that from 2026 to 2030, this CII will be further enhanced for a deeper decarbonization. What also was expected, it's a kind of basket of measures that is under discussion, some of them. First, we continue with the short-term measures related to EXI and CII. We have voluntary measures that's already agreed, and it's expected that many countries or parties of the MARPOL will apply national action plans to reduce greenhouse gases. Then the global fuel standards, GFS, where it's an uptake and support for low carbon and zero carbon fuels. This is because in the formula of the CII, we have not too many factors to touch. We have fuel consumption, carbon factor, distance travel, and then the carbon capacity. That's why if we cannot reduce the fuel consumption because of the energy that we need, we have to probably change the fuel. And market-based measure, and it's under discussion, a kind of mandatory greenhouse gas contribution that will be for supporting for green corridors, for improvement the TRLs, to increase and speed up the development of new technologies and the development of new fuels. One of the points that is really important is what kind of fuel that we are going to use and how it was produced. Because if, as I told you priorly, if we are going to use hydrogen with zero footprint from a tank to wake basis, how this hydrogen was produced. Okay, so these guidelines, LCA guidelines, are intended to count the emissions from the well to the tank like this. Then we have the tank to wake, and finally we have the complete carbon footprint of the fuel that we are using. Other aspect that is under discussion is the life cycle fuel label, where fuel producers have a kind of standard, so we can easily calculate, or easily in between commas, to calculate the well-to-tank life cycle assessment. Other measures that are under discussions, and some of them that we show have been discarded, some of them will probably be applicable, but the idea is to show you what is expected from the market for the coming years. Kind of as a market-based measure, the cap and trade system, where we have a certain cap of emissions per ship, and the allowances can be traded. The foundation reward that this was not included finally, where ships rated with A and B has a reward, ships rated with E and E has a kind of penalty monetary fund that must comply. And probably what is happening, what will be approved, sorry, will be a flat rate contribution where ships pay for each ton of CO2 emitted. This will help at the International Maritime Sustainability Fund on Reward to improve all worldwide structure to reduce the carbon intensity of the maritime sector. What to expect in the coming years? Continue with the short-term measures. They revise the initial strategy. 2030 further increase this if it's disapproved. At least from 2030 onwards, 5%, at least 5% must be zero or net zero emissions. A checkpoint by 2030 will increase the reduction of CO2 emissions from ships and the complete greenhouse gases also. And by 2050, it's expected, not quite easy to apply, phase out of zero and net zero emissions from the shipping sector. Of course, it's a lot of work to do. It's an urgent need for this. And for 2050 onwards, 90% of use alternative fuels. Well, thank you so much. We comply with timing, so it's quite important to all this webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, dear Martin. It was really great presentation, of course. To continue with the program, I will transfer to my colleague, Erwin.
Thank you, Javier. Wow. Now is a great pleasure to present our next speaker, who is also part of the MTCC Latin American team, Gabriel Fuentes. He is a professor at the Norwegian School of Economy, where he teaches shipping economy and decision-making in shipping management. He is also a close collaborator of the MTCC Latin America, where he developed the emission and efficiency dashboard. Part of their pilot project 3, as we mentioned before. His research interests are on shipping digitalization and management and data science application for the UN SDGs. Please, their colleague Gabriel, the floor is yours to present and launching the MTCC Latin American dashboard.
Thank you, Irving. Certainly a great milestone. I'm going to use some time to just load my screen. This shouldn't take long. Please, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, their colleague Gabriel, we already see your screen.
Great, thank you. So once again, thank you for the introduction. My name is Gabriel. I'm a researcher in Bergen, Norway at the Norwegian School of Economics, also a professor in shipping economics, as mentioned before. I'm very happy to see many familiar faces, Professor Aykut and colleagues from WMU and colleagues from the MTCC Latin America and some other colleagues as well. So this presentation goes in 3 parts. I will try to be brief in what I'm going to say. But the most important part of this is the launching of our dashboard on emissions estimations. So we will start with an overview of the monitoring system. We're going to explain a bit what was the purpose behind it and how we get to arrange the agreements with other stakeholders. And then the uses that we have given already to the emissions estimations we have collected from Panamanian territorial waters. And we're going to close with discussing some challenges that we still have ahead with the information we got. So without further ado, I will invite you all to go to this website. It's at stats.mtcclatinamerica.com. I will just leave it there for 5 seconds. And this is also, it's going to be a test, our fire test, because I realize there are over 200 participants, and I would really want to check whether the dashboard could sustain 200 participants or more at the same time. So don't blame me if it falls down, because we're really going to stress this dashboard up. So this dashboard came out as a cooperation with the Norwegian School of Economics, of course, MTCC Latin America coordinating everything, and the United Nations Big Data. They supported the resources for us to build, to pick up the raw data and build up the statistics from there on. If I have to give some highlights, because dashboard has several capabilities. You can do many things with the information in here, and certainly there's a lot of things that we need to improve as we go and as we receive feedbacks. But the main aspects that we can highlight right now is that we first recognize this is a pioneering dashboard, which is exclusively focused on port activities related to vessels. So you may relate, those who are familiar with the emissions estimations literature, you may relate this as a scope 3 type of collection system. So the scope 3 goes in connection with what a port or a canal could report in terms of emission, not directly emitted by them, but kindly connected to what their operations are. And this is an important concept that we will extend further on when we talk about a case study where we collected information and we did some analysis on that. And another highlight is the information that we already collected, where we found out that vessels transited the Panama Canal emitted approximately 30 million tons of CO2 in 2020 alone. This not necessarily means that that comes from the operation. Once again, has to do with a different type of scope, scope 3. So it means that vessels transiting the canal, they had a leg before getting into the canal and they had a leg after crossing the canal. We counted those and we related that to a closed system where we can make some proposals on how to reduce those emissions going on. The dashboard is suitable for doing research. You could have emissions inventory per port. By the moment, our first phase of this pilot project 3 only includes Panamanian territorial waters, but the advantage of this dashboard is that it could be easily expanded to other regional partners. Additional, we were looking for having emissions benchmarks so we could compare whether policy were implemented properly. And the application itself is updated daily, is automated such that all the information comes in, not necessarily real time, but is updated daily. But very close to what, closer to real time than what we would expect. As information that we get from here, we got information from, that information is built from proprietary algorithms. Those algorithms has been tested against literature, has been tested against reviewers on journals. So everything that is surrounding this one has been presented to journals for publications. So we have one paper on revision, which is soon going to be, a revision is soon going to be finalized on his second round. The emissions estimation method is pretty much based on the fourth IMO greenhouse gas study report by IMO. And we did it that way because we want to have some sort of measurement which could be comparable to what the report presented. Another important advantage is that the information within the dashboard could be filtered out, and you have a panel at the left side where you could filter information either by dates, vessel types, ports, sizes, or whether you would like to focus on a specific type of gas. So what were the motivations behind this project? And here we're going to step a couple of steps backwards to recognize where this came from. First of all, we recognize that the fourth IMO greenhouse gas report would not segregate information at the country level, even though they, for the first time, reported domestic emissions and highlighted that they were important. Second, that we wanted to analyze the effect of Panama being a coordinator of just-in-time arrival, so pretty much exploiting efficiency in terms of waiting times, such as to reduce the so well-known effect of rush to wait, whether the vessel gets very fast to a place, waiting for them to be attended, therefore emitting so much more than they should have. Then to create a solutions, and we took a long pretty much on this step because we wanted to have something that could be easily scalable on demand to other interested parties. So every single detail that we prepare for this dashboard, the pipeline that goes behind it, the algorithms, everything had to be done in a way that it could be easily tweaked such to adapt to other partners. Definitely a knowledge creation, and that's something we already start within the UN Big Data partners, but certainly something that we like to expand to our MTCC collaborators. Use the generated statistic as a research resource. We've been doing that already. And then, of course, and I do believe this is the key effect of this dashboard I would like to expand this dashboard for, is that we could support with evidence for policy creation in regards of emissions reductions, either at the national level or regional level. Of course, we identify already that we've been attending 5 of the UN SDGs, giving additional value to our project. A brief review, and I'm not going to stay because this could get quite technical. If there's any technical questions about it, you're free to send me a message and we could talk after these presentations or any other day. So on a brief summary, the models that builds the statistics goes as follows. We collect AIS, automatic identification system data from ships, but we have resources such to have worldwide AIS big data from what the UN Global Platform and UN Big Data provides us. That big data, we first filter them within a big data cluster, and when we create statistics based on machine learning methods, most of them doesn't work in isolation, which means that our algorithms uses parts of machine learning methods, connects it to a special analysis and then another machine learning method. So this is a whole system that covers many aspects. And finally, when the information is done, we estimate both the emissions, pretty much based on the report, the fourth IMO report method, and within the findings that we receive from the proprietary algorithms. So as a quick review, this is what I like to tell the power of one vessel information. So we had the power of segregating information at the very lowest level, because we pretty much estimates the operations of a vessel via machine learning methods and AIS, one vessel at a time, which at the end provide us with a large database, which we can segregate and aggregate at will, giving us the flexibility of catering our studies on specific matters. So here's an example of a vessel crossing the Panama Canal, even going alongside a Panama Ports company in Cristobal, the northern part of the Panama Canal, and then exiting the Panama Canal. This is a very brief review of how everything goes. So we do this with every single vessel that is within our area of interest. So what results do we get? The most important ones, CO2, carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxides. Why do we choose these gases? Pretty much because we are concerned of these gases being those promoting the most the greenhouse gas effect, together with the latest decision on the EU ETS of including those as part of also the taxable gases or the taxable reported gases that needs to be presented to them in Europe. Services times are important. Waiting times for us are paramount as well, because we can connect we can make studies on the waiting times on ports at the canal, and we can reflect on how those could be reduced, such as vessels could reduce speed before getting to their calls, and at the same time reduce emissions. And certainly, emission heat map allow us to identify the clusters where emissions are more dense. Okay, so a very brief introduction and the highlights of a study that we made with the information that we start collecting. This study is also under review on the Transportation Journal. And we pretty much made the case study of the Panama Canal. And the aim of this was to look at the impact of reducing speed on greenhouse gases emissions on maritime shock points. And I have to make a note in here. We considered that the solutions, the proposals that we presented here could be expandable, could be presented as solutions to other shock points, namely the Suez Canal, the Bosphorus Strait, etc. However, we make the specific case of the Panama Canal because we were collecting information already and we wanted to quantify specifically for the case how much they would reduce in case they change their policy. First of all, the main findings, we recognize that by a simple change, very slight, we study all the information related to their policy for scheduling vessels. With some slight changes, we present 4 proposals, different ones. They could reduce up to 2 million tons of CO2 equivalent annually. And perhaps the number seems a bit small. However, we make very, very conservative assumptions because in our mathematical models, we did not want to run out of feasibility in terms of whether it could be implementable. If we go all the way on a dream of how it should be working, then our feasibility wouldn't be, we had a trade-off among feasibility and introduction of reduction measures. Then we identify, and this was qualitatively, so we studied the main contracts and we studied the literature on why speed reduction was not implemented. And we recognize that some barriers of implementation documented on literature when the final place where you have to reduce your speed is a port, it could be leveraged in the case of a choke point. Fortunately, or probably not, contracts are based on a port-to-port basis, namely a charter parties and such. So some incentives, some split incentives occurs from ship owners not wanting to reduce speed because there's no benefit in that case. We discover and we make an analysis very thorough that the canal, being a choke point, leverage many of those barriers of implementation documented by literature. And finally, we recognize that the Panama Canal, together with the ports of Busan and the port of New York, New Jersey, if they propose this route, including the canal, as part of a Getting to Zero Coalition green corridor, they might rank 6 in terms of carbon footprint impact. More importantly, it may become a catalyzer of accelerated action towards other partners also wanted to be part of green corridors with the Panama Canal. So this has 2 effects, not necessarily just the quantitative effect that it has immediately, being 6 if they decide to apply, but also that it becomes a catalyzer because of so many routes crossing by. With that final comment, I would like to give an introduction on the challenges. And this is specifically for the dashboard. We recognize that we could expand to some additional areas. Of course, that will come, that is necessary. We need additional resources to do that and working hours, of course. The dashboard itself, we need to create an API system such that the people could download information in at will. However, for that, we were planning to do some user sessions or user management, but we are stuck a bit because, as you may realize, there's these new regulations on data protections are important to cater, and we are in need of expertise to get over this one. Therefore, we haven't added anything related to the user sessions. Finally, which is also being conducted as we speak, voyage optimization models that fits from the information, the statistics that we're generating here. Namely, whether you will choose to buy a pre-book transit in the Panama Canal when the waiting times are low, or where you will save those $40,000+ when there's not so much waiting times. Many options we got ahead of us. So thank you very much for your kind presentation. This was a project stemmed from the cooperation of UN Big Data, the MTCCs Latin America, and the Norwegian School of Economics. Any questions, feel free to contact me. Here's my website down here, and I will be happy to answer any questions later on.
Thank you, Gabriel, for your excellent presentation on the launching of the MTCC Pilot Project 3 or dashboard, and we are so happy to everybody can ask to you or to us about how is the Pilot Project 3 or the dashboard, and feel free to contact directly. Thank you a lot, but we have a short time to present the next section. Javier, please, the floor is yours to present the next section.
Yes, thank you, Erwin. Thank you, Erwin. As the time is running, we'll proceed to session 3. To session 3, the panel discussion. And in this session, we are going to switch to Spanish language for our audience, Spanish speakers. So I'll give you the floor, Erwin.
Muchas gracias a cada uno de ustedes, los participantes aquí presentes en este taller. Abriendo la sesión del panel 3, iniciaremos con la presentación de la teniente Leticia Mesa, ¿sí? De la Prefectura General de Paraguay, asesora jurídica, docente, investigadora y directora del Comité de Mentoring de la Red MAMLA, quien nos dará unas palabras de introducción sobre el rol de la Red MAMLA dentro de nuestra región latinoamericana a través de la creación de capacidades y la cooperación técnica. Tenemos aproximadamente 5 minutos, estimada Leticia, para que nos pueda dar unas breves palabras sobre cómo ustedes están desarrollando la creación de capacidades.
Sí, muy buenas tardes a todos. Es un gran honor para la Red de Mujeres Autoridades Marítimas de Latinoamérica, Red MAMLA, participar en este taller internacional virtual con una temática de vanguardia. Sin lugar a dudas, representar a la Armada Paraguaya, representar a la Autoridad Marítima de la República del Paraguay es muy importante por constituirnos en la tercera flota a nivel fluvial de Latinoamérica. En el contexto de sostenibilidad que nos encontramos en el día de la fecha, convocados aquí, es muy importante tener esos dos pilares importantes que son, sin lugar a dudas, la capacitación, unidos y convergidos en el contexto de la cooperación técnica internacional. En ese sentido, la Red MAMLA es una de las 8 asociaciones regionales de mujeres WIMAs, apoyados por la Organización Marítima Internacional, que trabaja muy fuertemente y muy sostenidamente en crear espacios y oportunidades para que las mujeres latinoamericanas del sector fluvido marítimo, portuario y logístico puedan crecer y encontrarse profesionalmente y ser una herramienta profesional visible para el sector. En ese sentido, tenemos 2 ejes estratégicos muy importantes, que son el eje estratégico número 1, que habla justamente sobre la educación y la capacitación al interior de la membresía, que eso se trabaja muy fuertemente con los distintos comités permanentes de tareas. Asimismo, trabajamos muy fuertemente en comparación y conexos con la cooperación técnica internacional, porque entendemos que el eslogan que tiene justamente este taller es impulsar y sostener nuestro trabajo profesional en la investigación, en el desarrollo y en la innovación. Así es que esa trilogía es muy importante y la Red MAMLA sostiene sus trabajos de capacitación, de educación, enlazados con la cooperación técnica. Sin lugar a dudas, son herramientas pragmáticas que hacen que tengamos resultados eficientes al interior. Un ejemplo de esto es la gran participación que tenemos en este tipo de espacios virtuales que nos conectan, que nos inspiran y que motivan, y que nos motivan también por en liderazgo, en inspiración y en motivación de las mujeres. Así es que conectar y sumar capacitación, cooperación, con impulso de motivación, de liderazgo y de inspiración para nuestras mujeres marítimas de Latinoamérica son fundamentales. Un ejemplo práctico que queremos compartir por parte de la red MAMLA en este contexto son los acuerdos con nuestros asociados estratégicos, como ser EMSA, como ser justamente la MTCC, como ser también la Universidad Marítima de Panamá, que justamente nos vamos conectando y enlazando y generando esos acuerdos sostenibles para que este sector fluvial marino en el contexto de nuestra Agenda 2030 y también concatenando con esa equidad de género que es tan importante y en resultados también de sostenibilidad en esta complementariedad de trabajos entre el hombre y la mujer. Así es que, mi estimado Erwin, agradecida por la invitación a la red MAMLA, contentos por poder participar, aportar, generar esa capacitación en América por parte de la OMI es un elemento demasiado importante, así es que muchas gracias por la invitación y Red MAMLA es un aliado estratégico para sumar en capacitación y en cooperación técnica. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, muchas gracias. Es un placer para nosotros, igual que ustedes estén aquí con nosotros presentes. Now we are switching to English. Javier, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Always good to have also MAMLA in our activities. We are continuing with the program. Now we have receiving questions from the audience and interested questions from the audience, and it's the time for some questions, and we will ask our speakers to be short in the answers as we are receiving many questions from our participants. The first one will be addressed to Dr. Aykut Olsher. Professor Olsher, one of the questions is how the World Maritime University promotes the energy transition and shipping decarbonization through maritime education and training.
Thank you very much, Javier. I think this is the best question I might have. So this is the easy question. Of course, WMU was established by IMO to build capacity for the people coming from, in particular, developing countries. This is what we do for the last 40 years. And in line with this one, WMU has 7 specializations, but one department and specialization is dedicated to, we call it maritime energy management, and who is educating future maritime and ocean leaders in that particular discipline, in particular decarbonization of international shipping. So we have master program to educate future maritime leaders, and also for the busy maritime professionals, we have a distance learning program at postgraduate diploma level. And those 2 programs are supported by the research we do, cutting edge research we do through the research portfolio we have, along with the PhD students we have. And so in very short, briefly, definitely we have educational products to support the decarbonization of international shipping. In addition to this, we are in close collaboration with IMO. We support IMO and IMO activities. So in very short, this is what we do at WMU. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Professor Olsher. World Maritime University, it's working in this shipping decarbonization through MET. Thank you. We continue, Erwin. The next question.
Yes, now we have one question to Mr. Gavin Albright. Yeah, Mr. Gavin, you're here with us, huh?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, we have one question for the audience, and they asked to you, could you explain about the process of the implementation of wind propulsion in building ships and the opportunity ahead? Please let us know about that.
So the opportunities ahead. Wow, that's a big question. How many hours do I have to talk about that? Well, the steps forward. I mean, a lot of our members are looking to install their systems, retrofit or new build onto vessels, working, and I think I'll borrow this word from a couple of the speakers today, in a holistic, collaborative fashion. So It's bringing all of the stakeholders together, the ship owner, yard, technology provider, class, etc. Bringing them all together to actually assess each ship or fleet of ships that requires the different type of wind propulsion system. Have a discussion around which systems actually work or are compatible the best with the type of ship. And there are a lot of variables where the system could be placed, reinforcing of the hull, etc., or the superstructure, but also things like the amount of freeboard on the vessel and how that interacts with respective technologies. So this is one reason that IMO Cares will be very, very useful for a lot of the technology providers, because of the IMO's convening capacity to bring those stakeholders to the table. But I'd just like to add one more thing, is this isn't just simply about the top-down delivery of technologies. For me, the entire aspect of a just transition is around co-design, collaboration, and the development of systems that work in the regions and on the shipping lanes that we're talking about. So I think it goes deeper than just simply putting technologies on ships. We need to be researching, training, building capacity around wind propulsion too. Hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you. Very good, very good just answer for all the audience. And I think this is good to motivate everybody here, and also to know how we can do in the transition of the energy efficiency, also to implement a new propulsion system on board of the new ships. And Javier, please continue with you, my friend.
Sure. Thank you, Erwin. And we are really lucky to have this panel of experts, specialists from all over the world internationally. And the next question will be addressed to Mr. Duno. Mr. Duno is ready for the question. It says, what resources are required to help understand the green port concept and the process of evaluating the implementation of a green transition in our region, Latin America?
Well, very quickly, the first step would be to see the amount of energy you consume, like make a very quick audit of how much energy you have, your energy from your own activities, like you have your air conditioning system in your buildings, you have your street lighting system, as I mentioned. Then you look at your operations. You look at how much the energy bill. Look at very quickly at the energy bill. You can look at it. You don't need an expert for that. You know how much fuel you're buying. From there, you have an idea of how much resources you're putting. Now, when you have decided on this, when you have realized that there's a potential for saving, you can take some small steps. But if you want to do something more elaborate, then you appoint a consulting firm to have it, an expert, to look at a full-fledged energy audit. But then when you do that, you look at what are the first easiest thing in terms of energy efficiency measures. And once you have done this, then you move to later steps, like look at renewable energy potential. Each port have a specific, like in Port Louis, we can exploit fully renewable energy from solar, but we can't exploit wind because of the wind regime in the port. Some ports can have both, so it depends on where you are located. I would say this is one of the strategies. Now, next step would be to go for a deeper study, and then you bring the expert and then you elaborate in terms of reference for them, clear what you want from them. Now, funding is also an issue, so you can approach funding agencies, donor agencies to go for it. And I think we have done something, Irvin, with you, come up with a solid green port concept, which you can, from there, you can embark, try a port where you want to implement, or try a few ports where you want to implement this. Maybe we can talk more about it if we have some time on this. I hope I answer your question.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Duno. I think all topics we will need, I think, more time to discuss further but I believe we will remain in contact with all of our participants. Next question to our dear Martin.
Hello.
What use is the expected use of the fund and rewards over a fixed rate contribution proposal?
Okay. Well, thank you, Javier. Well, first, one of the points is to have support to the transition to the decarbonization. This is one of the main tasks. Support research and development, support suppliers and supply bunkering, supply the green corridors to have standardized routes with zero or net zero emissions, and support the TRS, that are the technological readiness levels of each technology. That's why it's really important. And basically, and one of the most important things is to technology transfer to the least developed countries, or the countries that need more support for design new ships, design bunkering structure, and new kind of fuel or that will comply or help comply with the decarbonization process. As this is what we see that.
Thank you so very much, dear Martin. Very good answer. I switch to my colleague Erwin.
Thank you, Javier. Now we mentioned, and everybody can see in the chat room. Yeah, please feel free to fill out the evaluation forms that I mentioned before. When you fill the forms, you have to be received your certificate of participations. Thank you for IMO. Thank you for Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to bring us this opportunity, a great opportunity to share all in Latin American region and globally that kind of cooperation that we can do together. And this is very happy for us that all of you received something gift to your present here in our conference, in these workshops. And continue, I have to switch to Spanish language because we have another question for many people here. We have to switch to to Spanish language. Ahora vamos a hacer el cambio a español, donde tenemos unas preguntas que nos han realizado. Y esta pregunta viene para una de nuestras principales especialistas en este sentido, Sara Zelaya. Se encuentra aquí con nosotros, que es la jefa del Departamento de Protección del Medio Marino de la Dirección General de Marina Mercante de Honduras. Sara Zelaya, ¿te encuentras con nosotros?
Aquí estoy, presente.
Excelente. Gracias a la red MAMLAM que está con nosotros aquí y a ustedes por ser parte de este panel de discusión. Tenemos una pregunta para usted, Sara. ¿Cómo se ha promovido el proceso de descarbonización hacia una transición energética sostenible, motivando la participación activa de las mujeres dentro del sector marítimo, portuario, logístico? ¿Y qué otras actividades vislumbran ustedes en el futuro?
Muchas gracias, Erpin, y a todos. Apreciamos el espacio que se nos ha dado desde la red MAMLA y también como representante de la Autoridad Marítima de Honduras. Es un gusto para mí y un honor representar a ambos y bueno, mencionar que desde hace 5 años la red MAMLA ha sido pues esa oportunidad de visibilizar el rol de la mujer en cuanto a los aspectos técnicos, ejecutivos del ámbito marítimo internacional y el ámbito marítimo ambiental, ¿verdad? Y también ha permitido potenciarlos. Yo considero que cuando se abordan temas de este tipo, altamente técnicos, científicos, ligados a la navegación, a la prevención de la contaminación de buques, la transición energética, la eficiencia energética, reducción de emisiones atmosféricas contaminantes y cambio climático en general, no se hace lo suficiente por posicionar el papel y la incidencia que tiene la mujer en estos temas, no solamente como un actor relevante, sino también como una tomadora de decisión, ya sea desde autoridades marítimas y portuarias, desde la misma industria marítima auxiliar, las terminales portuarias, como formadoras de gente de mar y como gente de mar también, ¿verdad? Vale decirlo. Y pues este ha sido uno de los objetivos primordiales de la red MAMLA, generar estos espacios de difusión de esta temática dirigidos por mujeres, ¿verdad? Que a mi criterio contamos con una característica muy especial, y es que tenemos una afinidad y una sensibilidad innata en nuestra naturaleza en cuanto a los temas ambientales y a los problemas ambientales y que tienen que ver con recursos naturales. Y por tanto considero que esta es una fortaleza muy valiosa, ¿verdad? Y también aporta por nuestro género a esta lucha y esta defensa de protección, en este caso para los océanos. La red MAMLA pues se ha convertido en una palestra regional para mostrar al mundo el papel que hemos venido desarrollando las mujeres en el sector marítimo, a la vez que ha identificado y ha puesto a nuestra disposición nuevas oportunidades para crear y fortalecer capacidades y expertise específico para este tema, ¿verdad? Ejemplos concretos que puedo mencionarles: por ejemplo, en Honduras, a través de un programa que se llama Somos MAMLA, desarrollamos un webinar el año pasado relativo a los aportes del sector marítimo a la mitigación del cambio climático, ¿verdad? En el cual pues, participaron 80 personas entre nacionales e internacionales. Y de igual manera, toda nuestra unidad, el Departamento de Protección del Medio Marino, fue capacitado también el año pasado a través de la red MAMLA en cuanto a temas relativos a la implantación efectiva de toda la normativa de anexo 6, con especial énfasis en temas de el contenido de azufre en los combustibles de los buques. Entonces, cabe mencionar que la Unidad Ambiental de Protección del Medio Marino de la Autoridad Marítima de Honduras está compuesta por 6 especialistas ambientales y 4 de ellos pues somos mujeres. En cuanto a estas perspectivas hacia el futuro, considero que estos procesos de creación y desarrollo de capacidades deben mantenerse sin ninguna condición, ¿verdad? Porque los desafíos que están ligados a la crisis climática actual, histórica, exigirán cada vez más de nosotros, de nuestras tecnologías, de nuestras regulaciones y de la manera en la que las implementamos. Para abordar de manera integral un tema tan complejo y tan amplio, pues no podemos dejar por fuera el recurso humano, ¿verdad? Y no sobra decir que estos procesos pues deben incorporar esa perspectiva de equidad de género que defiende la red MAMLA. Y bueno, es así que rápidamente quise compartir un poco con ustedes sobre el trabajo que realiza la red, ¿verdad? Junto con las autoridades marítimas de Latinoamérica, y que ha tenido incidencia y relevancia en cuanto a la descarbonización de nuestro sector a fin de promover la conservación y el uso sostenible de los océanos. Gracias, Erwin.
Muchas gracias, Sara. Excelente, excelente presentación. Now I have to switch to my colleague, Javier. Please, we have more questions in the chat in the meeting, in the chat meeting. Please, the floor is yours.
Fin de mes, de este mes.
Okay, our last question for Gabriel, our colleague also from the MTCC Latin America, which is also announcing the launching of the pilot project 3 dashboard of the MTCC Latin America. Gabriel, a question, many people interested in your presentation, of course, how it works the digital dashboard, the indicators of efficiency and sustainability. So now, what are the potential applications of emissions and efficiency dashboard, and how was the idea conceived of this dashboard? I think summarizing the questions from the audience, I think you can quickly talk about that.
Yeah, so it's a two-part question. So I will start with the applications, and then I will go through how it was conceived, right? So for the applications, one of the issues when you're doing, for instance, optimizing weather routings, some of the proposals given on some of the speakers, one of the key issues is like you don't have comparable statistics that could fit those models. So you pretty much are throwing optimizations model out of the blind. Particularly for us, it's of our main interest, the areas of the waiting times, because the waiting times are by definition the opportunities for vessels to reduce speed at sea. So when you have some sort of waiting time and you have a probabilistic distribution, you have a distribution in there, then you can have a better insight, or you can feed better optimizations models such to give you a optimal or a better scheduling system for whoever, whether it's a port or it's the Panama Canal itself. Therefore, your opportunity to reduce speed, reduce emissions at the same time. And the second question was related to where was it conceived? Well, fortunately for us, we get the opportunity to be exposed to a hackathon a couple of years ago. And I reflect immediately with one of the presentations early on of trying to do hackathons to get solutions from different angles, right? I do believe that's the right way of doing so. This is the result of a hackathon project that we conducted throughout the United Nations Statistics Office. They presented the call for people interested in presenting solutions related to UN SDGs with AS data. After we end up with the runner-up position, we reflect on how this could be implementable within the goals of the MTCC. Therefore, we presented the project. And today is, let's call it, not necessarily a conclusion, because I'm pretty sure this needs a lot of refinement, but a great milestone after that participation on that milestone. So to speak, Javier was also part of the hackathon team, so he knows better what I'm talking about.
Yes, we know a great milestone. Yes, as you rightly mentioned, and we are happy also to have the opportunity to display that, and not let's say the conclusion, Gabriel. Let's say the first stage of the project. After, we like to expand this project to all the Latin American region, to all the countries that form part of Latin America. With this, I switch to my colleague Erwin.
Yeah. Many questions about the project, and this is a good opportunity to everybody to know about what we can do and what is the possible opportunity to make this happen in the process of the decarbonization. But we have one question to the guy who are working together with this project called IMO Cares, and he's the implementer of that. But one question there, Anton Roth. You are here, our friend, because you are some of the part of this great event. There, Anton?
Yes, hi, Evan. Hi there.
Hey, hi. There, Anton, the audience make your question, but one important that we want to know about, how will the IMO Care align with existing IMO Technical Cooperation Initiative? Can you explain to us about?
Yeah, thanks very much, Evan. And good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Yeah, so there's different ways that IMO are approaching technical cooperation. And there's different focus areas. There's knowledge sharing, there's human, legal, policy kind of focus. There's the more kind of traditional institutional capacity building, working with maritime administrations to build human capacity in these organizations. CARES is focused very much on the technology side. Okay, it's focused very much on technology demonstration. And listening to some of the presenters, that the point has been raised many times, there needs to be a joined up approach. There needs to be coordination between the different stakeholders if we're going to achieve this just and fair transition. Okay, so CARES is focused very much on bringing, the different stakeholders together, because it's one thing to say we need better coordination. It's much harder to kind of find the ways to achieve that. What are the different types of mechanisms that we can set up to achieve that? And with CARES, the approach we're taking is, as IMO, we want to facilitate, we want to coordinate with the stakeholders. That's where we add a lot of value in the shipping sector. We have a very unique position, as a UN agency on shipping. We have great connections with both private sector and governments, of course, through our member states. How do we utilize that? What can we do? At the IMO CARES level, we want to set up hackathons. And I heard that mentioned earlier by Gabrielle. We've seen these types of events in action, and they're fantastic for kind of stimulating new ideas and bringing together different stakeholders. So that's one approach. Another approach is to focus on competitions and challenges. So in this area, what we're planning to do and my colleague Petra touched on it earlier, we're running something called the Technology Demonstration Global Challenge. Okay, so what we want to do with this challenge is, first of all, identify what are kind of technology priorities in developing countries, especially SIDS and LDCs. And then we want to take these challenges, you know, to the kind of global level and say, you know, what technology providers are out there and what solutions do they have to these particular challenges. So CARES will facilitate the whole thing. You know, we'll invite, you know, technology providers to submit concepts. We'll review those, and the winners will be funded to develop full proposals. Also, it's not just about identifying the good ideas. We want to actually implement them in region. Okay, so we're linking with other IMO initiatives, in this case, the EC-funded GMN project, to actually implement these technology solutions in region. Okay, so we'll be working with MTCCs to implement in region. So if we identify a technology solution on a port vessel, okay, we're basically facilitating the development of the concept, the proposal, and its implementation in region. The other thing is, you know, during this process, we want to expose these technology providers to possible investors. Okay, so it's one thing looking at the, you know, the actual application of the technology. The next step is, how do we upscale it from just one pilot demonstration to, you know, potentially applying it across a wider region. And key to that is getting finance. So the other part of CARES is to link up the solution providers with potential investors. And again, there's a lot of initiatives already underway at IMO, like the FinSmart Roundtable, working with finance institutions on shipping issues. So we want to connect our solution providers with these potential investors. So we'll be running networking events. The first one will be held alongside the IMO UNEP and Norway Innovation Forum in London in September, and we'll be running a very special networking event just focused on, you know, raising interest and giving exposure to these technology providers, with the intention long term that they get investment on these particular technologies. So Irvin, it's been fantastic listening to your different presenters, and thank you for giving the opportunity to talk a little bit more about CARES. Back to you.
Thank you there, Anton. Thank you a lot for excellent words and also an explanation about the question that audience made to you. We want to thank each of your speakers for their excellent presentation, and we hope to continue working as a team, strengthen, acknowledge, and scale within our Latin American region, involving all stakeholders to support this global process of the energy transition toward a shipping decarbonization. We invite you again, all of the participants, to fill out the evaluation form, and immediately when you receive that in the Zoom chat, you receive an email when you certificate of participation in these international virtual workshops. Continue. We are going to present the closing remarks, and I have to switch to Spanish language to present Professor Víctor Luna Barahona, rector de la Universidad Marítima Internacional de Panamá, para que nos dé unas palabras de clausura de este gran evento internacional que estamos realizando. Profesor Víctor, tiene la palabra para poder presentarnos unas palabras de cierre, por favor.
Muy buenos días, muchas gracias, Erwin. Quiero primero agradecer a la Organización Marítima Internacional y al Reino de Arabia Saudita, a través de la Autoridad General de Transporte, por el desarrollo, por el apoyo en este tipo de iniciativas. Iniciativas que tienen como objetivo coordinar y vincular las diversas propuestas globales que se ocupan de la investigación, desarrollo e innovación de las bajas emisiones de carbono, la transferencia y adopción de tecnologías, así como las iniciativas de financiación verde que facilitarán al sector marítimo en los países en desarrollo, especialmente en los pequeños estados insulares en desarrollo y en los países menos desarrollados, a fin de hacer la transición energética hacia un futuro bajo en carbono con la participación clave de todos los MTCCs a nivel regional para apoyar la estrategia de gases de efecto invernadero de la OMI y los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible. Sin lugar a duda, el proyecto IMO CARES, acciones coordinadas para reducir las emisiones del transporte marítimo, está enfocado en promover la innovación, investigación y desarrollo en la adopción de tecnologías verdes para facilitar la implementación en las regiones en desarrollo. Este taller ha marcado un hito en la historia de los encuentros virtuales que anualmente organiza el MTCC Latinoamérica y la UMIP, al debatirse temas de primordial importancia para el futuro del transporte marítimo, descarbonización marítima. Las ponencias y debates han sido fructíferos y nos dejan compromisos y desafíos de acción inmediata, tales como hacer un llamado de atención a todas las partes involucradas en la cadena del transporte marítimo, para procurar un claro entendimiento sobre los retos y oportunidades que nos presenta nuestra realidad internacional. Por lo tanto, el uso de mecanismos más integrativos, procesos más seguros, sistematizados y digitalizados, medidas energéticamente eficientes y sostenibles, así como el uso de la tecnología como un elemento fundamental y, por supuesto, la educación y capacitación continua de nuestro elemento humano, nos catapultan hacia un verdadero desarrollo sostenible donde la cooperación técnica, las alianzas, la investigación, el desarrollo, innovación serán nuestros pilares fundamentales para desarrollar políticas nacionales e internacionales efectivas y de igual manera seguir promoviendo un transporte marítimo más seguro, eficiente y sostenible. Expreso mi profundo agradecimiento a todos los expositores y panelistas, de manera muy especial a ustedes, a todos ustedes, apreciados participantes, por haber hecho posible este encuentro. Agradezco de manera muy especial a los participantes de la región latinoamericana, administraciones, operadores, academias, universidades, organizaciones, a nuestra red MANLA y a toda la audiencia que fortalecen, y a toda la audiencia en general, por creer en estas actividades que realmente fortalecen nuestros niveles académicos y profesionales. Con el mismo ímpetu, envío mi agradecimiento y felicitación al equipo MTCC Latinoamérica por su eficaz y eficiente trabajo en la organización de este gran encuentro. Esperamos que este taller virtual, de este taller virtual emanen rayos de luz que se extiendan a toda nuestra región para continuar promoviendo la transición energética marítima y portuaria, implementando políticas para reducir las emisiones de gases de efecto invernadero generadas por las operaciones marítimas y portuarias, cumpliendo de esta manera con los Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible, ODS, de las Naciones Unidas. Muchas gracias a todos y que tengan un excelente día.
Muchas gracias, estimado presidente y rector de esta Universidad Marítima Internacional de Panamá, y gracias a todos los participantes. Thank you all of you, all the participants, and now we want to give the final words to their Anton Rods to make a closing remarks about this great event. Thank you, Dr. Anton. The word is yours, Mr. Rhodes, please.
Fantastic. Thanks, Irvin. Just really a brief summary of this event. You know, this event has been replicated in the other MTCC regions. So we undertook similar workshops also in Africa, in Pacific, in Asia, and Caribbean. And, you know, in all of these events, we've had fantastic turnout, and that's been replicated again for Latin America. So a huge congratulations to Irvin and the team for you know, stimulating so much interest. And it is, you know, a really hot topic at the moment, you know, the maritime GHG issue. There's an awful lot happening at the regulatory level. There's an awful lot happening in the kind of technology level as well. So it's very fast paced, and, you know, these types of events I think are fantastic because it's hard to keep up with all the developments, and it's great to have these kind of summaries where you get the different perspectives on such a kind of complex topic. It helps brings it all into focus. And in terms of cares, you know, these types of events are very useful to get the feedback from the different regions, because Latin America and MTCC Latin America will be a key part of the cares project, and they'll, you know, the center will also be a key part of IMO's different GHG focused initiatives. So it's great to you know, work with the MTCC Latin America, and again, a huge thank you to Irvin and the team at MTCC Latin America. We thank the hosts of MTCC Latin America, UMIP, and we appreciate the comments provided there. And we also, of course, thank Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, who supported this activity, but also the wider CARES program. They've really made it possible. Just one final word. If you'd like to find out more about the CARES, I left my email address in the comments. So please send me an email and I can add you to our mailing list. We are in the preparatory phase, but we intend to launch the CARES project in March. Okay, so there'll be a lot of details coming in terms of the events which I mentioned, the global challenge. So for anyone interested, please just drop me an email so I can make sure that, you know, when we have developed the program and when we're ready to launch, we can make sure that you get all the information you need. So once again, a huge thank you, and appreciate the efforts of everyone involved. Thank you from IMO.
Thank you, Mr. Anton. Thank you all of you, all the participants, all the speaker. And Javier, we want to say thanks a lot. And we want to continue to promoting an efficient, sustainable shipping. See you in our next activity. And now we stop. Yeah, see you, everybody.
Thank you very much. See you.
Fair
Thank you
winds.
very much. Bye. Have a nice day. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Fair winds, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye bye, hasta luego, un gusto.
Thank you, bye.
Hasta luego.